Episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Kitchen Table Talks, the Kitchen Table Gallery podcast. I'm Chris O'Rourke. Today is Marek Danielewski, episode 1. So this is the Kitchen Table Gallery where we're hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you just had a show here when, last week?
I think last week or 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Are you going to have a follow-up show?
Yeah, there's going to be a closing. I need to get some more people in here.
My sister kept correcting me on your last name.
Danielewski?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm used to this.
I said Marek Danielewski, and she kept saying, it's Danielewski, it's Danielewski.
You know what, you can say Danielewski, to be honest with you, because I kind of realized it's never going to change. It's part of becoming an American, you know?
It is.
People are going to start fucking up your name.
That's part of the passage to being an American. Now, when you give these names, are they part of a series like Society Hill, Empress, and Rome?
You know what? I don't know. It's like when I'm working on the piece, I kind of have an idea of what the name is gonna be, or like sometimes I name them after I'm finished.
Okay.
Rome is because it's like I'm obsessed with ancient Rome.
Well, you have a lot of ancient culture throughout all your work, and it's really, I mean, you have Egypt,
Yeah.
right? Even like some
Ancient Rome.
ancient Rome is a big one, though, especially the series of Caesars that I saw, I think, for another show at the Kitchen Table Gallery,
that's
right?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the hallway. Yeah, the Caesars. But definitely the one thing about your work, you got a lot of ideas going on, man. You got big ideas. I mean, there's big stuff happening, and I know in your artist statement you said something, you had maybe a little H.R. Geiger influence, or
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's weird, you know. I feel like he's been so, like people really like him, but I always felt like it's he's so popular that whenever you reference him, it's almost like, oh, you're just another person that like kind of copies his style. But to me, that's like tremendously stupid thing to say, because by the time my kid is 40, Giger's gonna be long gone.
Yeah,
And,
right.
you know, nobody's gonna be
Well,
thinking.
there's in style. There's more going on here. I mean, you do have a lot. I feel like when I look at your work, I'm always dealing with like, okay, world stuff. You know, for me, it tapped in. I'll be honest with you, and I don't know if you ever heard of this.
Yeah.
It's called Heavy Metal Magazine.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! I grew
Oh,
up
you love
on
it?
that.
Same did I. So did I. So did I.
grew up-
Okay, I don't know if you were actually aware of it or not, or
I
just.
have a huge collection of it.
Oh my God! If I could borrow some, that'd be great. But
You could. I got a couple of really good ones.
they actually have a lot of their covers online now. They just
Yeah.
put them online, and they came back on Twitter for a little bit. They were like, "Oh, Heavy Metal Magazine's back," because they figured out like, "Oh, there's all these guys who are nerds now and dorks and grown up, and are, you know, you have the huge geek culture, and they're just like, yeah, they love your stuff.
Well,
you
you know
know,
what? They got a
re-release them.
They got a huge problem, I think, actually.
With what?
With them being them, is that you see now it's like you can, if you get into heavy metal, you can actually purchase a lot of the older issues.
Yeah.
And so what happened is that you have all those extraordinary artists of
Yes.
the time,
Yeah.
like Bilal, Mobius,
Yeah.
etc. And so those guys have to compete.
Yeah.
Even now, really, with like this extraordinary talent. And frankly, I stopped collecting them years ago. They kind of just got weak.
They got weak. Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe that was just me. But I felt like, I don't know. It lost a lot of, just technically.
Yeah.
It just became,
Technically, okay.
Yeah, they just,
Okay.
the guys that were doing the art were just not up to, dude, you cannot like feed somebody a diet of Mobius, let's say.
Died of Mobius.
And then just take them to McDonald's. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, you know?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think a lot of the very, like, I just felt like the major talent in that scene kind of moved on.
Now, what scene do you mean? Like the
Heavy
kind of fantasy,
comic
like that kind of like adult fantasy sci-fi scene?
Yeah.
Like that scene? Okay. Okay.
And I think the generation...
Not the kid stuff. Okay. I
Yeah.
don't care about the kid stuff. When I was 13, I saw the magazine. I was like, boom, I was into it. Not even just for the girls, but I mean, just the adult themes of just the violence.
I didn't
was
care
in
about
it.
the girls.
Yeah, I was just totally caught by just the plots and the narratives they were trying to push across, and that idea again of like, kind of being introduced to a large world and not being told anything about it. I love that. It's like, we built this world, you're thrown into it, good luck. And I always appreciated that something like with Liquid Television on MTV in the 90s, like Eon Flux or something,
Peter Chung.
Peter Chung, yeah.
Dude, I'm like super into...
I don't know what he's up to these days, but...
Well, you know what, that's interesting. I was just thinking about that. I thought maybe Disney should hire him, and if he agreed, and actually maybe make a decent cartoon.
Yeah, okay.
But that's not...
Everybody's reaching out these days, because you can, it's so easy.
I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know either. I don't know. I didn't research it for this interview, but that's a lot of this brings it to mind.
Yeah, because I was a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
You see, I'm a huge fan of Vigliensoni.
Yeah. Okay.
This guy.
You have a tattoo.
Yeah, of his.
What is the tattoo of there?
That's self-portrait of his.
Okay.
You see, Flux.
Uh-huh.
And so, that was. I always think of Chung's work like he literally just gave motion to Sheila's work in a pretty extraordinary way, especially in terms of animation and the amount of lines that he used.
What do you mean by that amount of lines?
Well, the construction of the figure was, there's specific lines that sort of make the movement so extraordinary in his work. You have the real sense of anatomy underneath it. There's bones, there's a spine. It's amazing. But for an animator,
I always found that erotic too.
Erotic?
Yeah, I always found that very attractive. The anatomy of.
No, it just made me want to draw.
It just made you want to draw. It made me horny. It made you want to draw.
Yeah, basically.
So, what was the name of the show? Or
Messiah Complex.
There it is. Yeah. Sorry, I had to correct your own show.
Yeah,
I was just looking at the artist statement. That's why I know.
Dude, I went to a gallery recently.
You sold a bunch, right, at the show?
I sold one piece. Yeah.
Oh, you sold one piece. Okay.
One of my favorite pieces, dude. This one.
Yeah?
One of my favorite pieces.
This is one of my favorite too, actually. Because I was actually a fan of yours at the first show. And when I saw your stuff, I was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of stuff I love. This kind of, that. And that's why I mentioned Heavy Metal Magazine, because I was like, he has to have a sense of that. Even if you didn't know the magazine stuff. Or I was going to say H.R. Geiger, but it was already in there in your artist statement. So you already, obviously accept that as a major influence. Well, what about the process? What's going on here? Like, what are you using for these paintings and how to create stuff?
It's paper.
Create your work.
It's a paper that it's a drawing pad paper of like an extraordinary quality. And my teacher in New York introduced me to it.
Who was that?
James McMullen.
James McMullen?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's SVA. He was like an amazing. He's like an amazing illustrator. He did like poster art for Lincoln Theater. Really, just like amazing dude. And yeah, he insisted that we have this specific type of paper for his class, and the paper is like super white, very white. So ink looks just beautifully on it.
Okay.
And when I started working with it, I wasn't just thinking about it. Ink at the time was not something that I thought I was going to end up doing at all. Because it seemed so...
What?
I don't know, it wasn't painting. And I was under a lot of pressure to be a painter. Like...
From where?
Just my father.
Why? Is he a painter? Or?
No, he wasn't. But,
He just loves painters so much? Or?
Yeah, in Europe I grew up around the circle of his, it was sort of like a little bohemian there or something. So...
Where was this at?
In Poland. So, going to his friends' houses as a kid, there would be like amazing paintings. But I'm talking like, not always like the crap you see, in people's houses. Like really, somebody had his friend's artwork.
Talent, skills.
Really, yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of them were, sad paintings, which is strange.
And what did he do?
Wait, who?
Your father.
Oh, yeah,
If he had all these friends who were bohemians.
Oh, no, my father was like a self-made man. Honestly, I don't know. He has this just way of going about the world. I don't know. He came from a very good family in terms of like financial support.
Okay.
Mother was his mother. My grandmother was a doctor.
Okay.
But and my father introduced me to Heavy Metal Magazine when I was 6 years old.
Really?
Yeah, because my uncle lived in the States, and so he would send my dad tapes. My uncle was my father's brother.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I remember watching this cartoon with my dad, and it just fucking blew my mind. But I was petrified of the scene with the bomber.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
the
zombies.
the bomber and the zombies. That's the movie, right? Heavy
Yeah.
Metal, the movie. Yeah.
And I have to say that the chick at the end,
Uh-huh.
the piece by Mobius,
Yeah.
that like introduced me, I think, to the notion of femme fatale.
Femme fatale, yeah. That'll get you.
Yeah, from that
Especially,
point on, I don't think I ever looked
I
the
think-
same at girls growing
No.
up from that point on.
No. After you tap into that femme fatale, it's over.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's all about the girls, man. You see, like smarter kids, I think, are kind of aware of that, even if they don't have a clue what to do with the girl.
Right.
You know. Yeah. So this was my introduction to heavy metal, to this amazing soundtrack. I was 6 years old. The movie petrified the shit out
Where
of me.
were you living in? Where were you from in Poland?
Warsaw, capital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
So you were a
lived
city boy.
my whole life urban.
Urban.
I don't know what to do outside of a city.
In the country.
I go crazy. I mean, I like suburbia a little bit. It's really chill and it lets me relax in ways that I think the city doesn't, which is good. But I need the city, or maybe I needed it. It's
For a while.
yeah. I'm tired of the city, dude.
Yeah.
The violence, the drugs. I've seen so much shit. I fucking can't take it anymore.
Well, how did you, so that's a good question. How, as far as getting here to Philly, how did you get here? How do you get from Poland to
Oh,
here?
I lived in Sweden. When I was 6, we moved to Sweden for political reasons.
Okay. What were those?
Just my father was not a big fan of the Communist Party.
Ah.
Yeah, and you know what? It was amazing. One day my dad's just like, "Hey, man, we packed up the Beetle. We're going for vacation."
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we went off and
You packed up the Beetle to outrun the communists.
yeah, and because my mom's brother was in Sweden,
Okay.
so we stayed there for 2 years. We ended up being deported.
From Sweden back. They sent you back.
Yeah, but
Wow.
by then the communism has collapsed, so my father was not in any danger.
Okay.
So anyway,
How was the road trip though?
it was insane, dude. Even I remember that because we had everything in that Beetle again.
Of course. Any siblings with you? Or no?
No, I'm the only kid. Oh yeah, my father's brother lives here, and so his cousins.
But on the way to Sweden though, it was just you and your parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. It was weird, man, but that gives you an immediate sense of isolation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, if you take a kid and you throw him into a different culture, different language, it's really strange. Even for a kid. I mean, we adapt. I was speaking fluent Swedish. But I think that I remember for the first time really being so much apart. Away
From that network of family, friends, right?
well, oh,
Yeah. The gallery owner is here.
wait, what were we talking about?
You were on a road trip, going to Sweden.
Yes,
and then
I was introduced. You know
feeling a
what,
little
how
isolated in Sweden,
Well,
even though you adapted to the language fairly quickly.
Yeah, we ended up living in an immigrant ghetto.
Wow.
So everybody was, there was no really Swedish people.
How was that? How was that set up?
I don't know. It's just like you wait for your paperwork, and they basically put you in like a neighborhood. It's like apartment complexes. In America, people think of it as like projects.
Projects, okay.
And it was very cool, man. I mean, but it was nothing but like refugees, and like all my friends were like South American or actually Palestine. Turkish kids.
How long were you in this ghetto?
Well,
Kind
it
of.
wasn't a ghetto, but 2 years.
In that sense, yeah.
Well, almost
This-
2 years.
Yeah.
Because we ended up hiding in one of my teacher's apartments for a year. No,
Wow.
maybe for half a year.
You're hiding in the apartment?
Well, what happened is that when they decided to deport us because of like political stuff, my teachers felt like, this family has done absolutely nothing wrong.
Okay.
So
Were you also trying to contribute too? Like, were you working at all? I mean, the parents obviously were.
yeah, of
Were they
course.
your parents were working and trying to like,
Oh my God.
trying
yeah.
to like, or they, well, well, by isolation, I thought maybe they weren't even allowed to leave. Like, they couldn't even help in the
Oh no,
culture.
no, no! They were totally doing. The isolation was weird. It's like I was, there are different moments that I specifically remember. Like one time being outside of the grade school or preschool maybe, and there were like trees, and I remember specifically standing in the trees looking at the kids playing. That's like a specific memory. And the way I made my Swedish friends was it was a South American kid and a Palestinian kid, and I was walking with my dad from school, and they were kind of messing around at the sandbox. They started throwing stones at me,
Okay.
and my father's just like, ignore them.
Ignore them. I love
Yeah.
that advice. Yeah.
So I'm by myself playing one day, and they come out, and they start throwing stones at me again, and I'm like, you know what, fuck that shit. So I picked up a stone and threw it at one of them, and he got hit in the head, and then he started crying, and he ran back home.
Yeah.
His father
Get those
came
bullies.
out. Yeah, but you know what? His father came out, who was a Swede.
Oh, okay.
It was interesting that he lived in that area.
He was a Swede living in that area.
Yeah, I mean, there's
where
Swedish people there, but it was definitely like if you're an immigrant or something,
Yeah.
you ended up in that area. Shit, Swedish, German.
So he was a big Swede that came up.
No, he was a very nice man, and he was holding this kid named Martin by the hand, and he says, "Hey, I saw my son. He was adopted. He says, I saw my son throwing stones at you. Don't be afraid. I saw him do that, so I know you were just defending yourself." And then he told us to like shake hands, and me and then the Palestinian kid, we ended up being like
There was a peace accord.
the best friends. It was us versus
Okay.
the Swedish kids and the Turks, the Turkish kids.
The Swedish kid and Turkish kid. So you stay. Eventually you go back to Poland, right?
Yeah, we get.
How do you study there? I mean, you were like 8 or 9 when you're back in Poland.
Well,
and now
you're back to being an alien because obviously as a kid
Right.
you've totally been.
Well, where have you
immersed.
been, right?
Yeah, and
Does your father reconnect with all of his Bohemian friends and mother? Did he connect?
No.
Reconnect?
I don't know. People were doing all kinds of things. It's common for Poles to work outside of the country.
Okay, why?
Well, just for financial reasons.
Yeah.
Back then, especially. I mean, if you wanted money, then you had to, go outside of the country and work. So, people are constantly on the move, kind of coming in and out of the country, with nice amounts of money.
Right. So eventually do you get into a university and come here, or do you?
Oh, like
study?
the Europeans, like Poles?
No, you.
Me, no.
specifically.
I left when I was 13.
You left when you were 13.
Again.
You came to the States.
Yeah.
You left again. Okay. So you came back for like 5 or 6 years, and then you're like, I'm out again. I'll see you later.
Oh yeah, but I hated it. It was horrible. I mean, because I kind of discovered beer in my group of friends. I was the first kid to cross the street and actually say hi to the girls.
Okay.
It was a weird thing. Somebody was like, "Hey."
In Poland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, 12, 13.
So then do your parents like send you here, or do you go with your parents?
We
or-
go.
You go. You just leave. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, we're going. The uncle says, come over.
Uh-huh.
The uncle in the States, he's like, come over. And where do you land?
Well, Bucks County. He has like a beautiful house.
Oh, you landed in Bucks County. That's close enough to Philly.
Yeah, I landed in a very beautiful place. So my first.
I was expecting like maybe Jersey, New York, or something.
No.
You landed in Bucks County.
That's not bad. Yeah.
No,
that's a
pretty
good place
close.
to land.
About 20, 30 minutes from downtown Philly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the suburbs, and but he has a beautiful house, beautiful swimming pool, amazing view.
Yeah.
And I used to come to the States for vacation before that.
Right, so it wasn't totally foreign to you. This isn't like,
Well, what I knew was that house, the swimming pool, the view in suburbia.
oh, I see. That's
Yeah.
about it. As a kid, you didn't really go to Disney
Yes.
World or anything.
Yeah, so I've kind of become fast. Like I love swimming pools, but this was my vision of America, sort of that I understood that this was America. Yeah.
Bucks
and then,
County.
Yeah. So,
Bucks County, USA.
yeah. And then we moved to Northeast, which was totally a different story. And that's really when I had no friends, dude. Like I'm telling you, high school, really no friends.
No.
at
So you're in an American
all.
high school. You're like
Catholic.
14 or 15. You're Catholic.
Catholic boys school.
Sure.
Father
Oh, Catholic
friends.
boys school.
Yeah, so it's a Polish kid versus.
This is
like-
the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Coming of age in America in the 90s. Ugh,
Dude.
one of the worst decades.
Yeah. Yeah,
Awful.
everybody was like.
When raves and bisexuality were all the rage.
Yeah.
I think that's what the 90s gave us, right? It was just bisexuality and raves.
No, I think a lot of shitty
I
music.
think glow sticks, too.
You know,
Oh, no, but that's the pacifiers too. They gave us the
do you like the
raver
90s?
pacifiers. Do I like the 90s? No, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
You know what? But I'm such a product of it, though. I think
Oh, yeah.
it's, I don't know. I have no idea, actually, because I don't feel like Generation X anyway. So
No, I don't feel like
I don't
it
feel like I belong anywhere, to be honest with you. Or at any given time. It's just always on the outside.
It took me 20 years to see Reality Bites. So that's how I feel about the 90s.
Yeah.
Um,
But there was Peter Chung, there was Your Flux.
Now we're talking, because that wasn't mainstream culture. So that's when MTV was really good. Liquid television. That is those years. That there was a part of the 90s, and there's a certain
Japanese animation.
kind of like, yeah, there's some things are sneaking in the 90s where it's like, okay, this is going to be good for America, you know. But that liquid television stuff, the naked biker chick that's a puppet. Do you remember that show? And then there was the Hillbilly show.
The
The Hillbilly show, right? They're all waxed. They look waxed out figures, like plastic, almost
Yeah.
I mean, it's live people. You know, it's actors
Max.
dressed up. Max was great. Yeah, Max was great.
Well, in high school I was lonely, but I had a comic book store. And that's where, it's like my father would take me. Then I started going there by myself.
Right.
And they had just like, dude, Akira. I mean, heavy metal.
Yeah. That's how you made your connection. That's
Oh,
how you.
yeah.
That's how you made you felt your community was the
Yeah.
comic book shop.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't talk to anybody. But I did buy, I think, a lot of work. And it was just, they had really an amazing selection.
And that was around the corner from me, doing something like that, like just walking.
Yeah,
to
I could walk
comic shop. Did you make any friends there?
No.
Or were you kind of like him, the quiet Polish kid,
Yeah, I guess.
reading comics?
Yeah, dude, it's so weird now in retrospect that I never talked to those guys. I mean, I was clearly one of them, I mean, they were
Yeah.
older,
It happens.
so they
yeah.
look a little bit more intimidating. But I don't know, I felt really, I don't fucking know. But you know what, maybe it was their fault too. They could have reached out.
So you stay in the Philly area for a while.
Yeah.
Where do you go to school? University, college. Where do you go?
Oh, I
after
went
high
to
school.
Well, I went to high school, then I worked in a factory for like a year, which was just,
Wow.
yeah, it was a weird experience.
Like a real blue collar job,
Yeah.
huh?
Oh yeah, there were like convicts working there.
What were you doing?
I worked on building windows, plastic windows on the line.
On the line?
Yeah.
You're a line worker.
Yeah, I was a line
Okay.
worker. It was fucking hilarious.
It's old school.
Yeah, there was a lot
I mean,
of
it still
shit.
exists, but like it's old school to me.
It's gone. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's almost so rare.
Yeah.
So I could almost be like one of the last generational groups that really got to do this type of labor. It was pretty cool.
In America, at least.
Yeah, but I did do, there were so much awesome machines that they had. And,
Really?
Yeah, and it was just like I hate and loved it working there because visually there was just some amazing shit to look at.
Yeah.
So that, and then I went to community college where, I was lucky.
And all in the area? Like you stayed in the Philly area?
Yeah.
Have you traveled much through the States?
Through the States, yeah, later on in my life, yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Vegas, Arizona, California, I do, dude, I realized that America is actually worth exploring. It's like,
It's worth exploring. Kind of.
Yeah, 'cause
Kind of.
it's so
It depends on where you
big.
go.
It's
It
so
is.
big,
It
you
is.
know?
I think the land is definitely worth exploring.
Oh, it's
I don't know if the
amazing.
culture so
Oh.
much anymore, but
Culture.
definitely.
The culture isn't that bad. I think Americans don't realize that they're a very young country.
Okay.
I think-
I hear this from people a lot
Yeah.
from other countries.
They
I heard it when I was a kid, when I was
yeah. I mean,
running around
Romans
in England.
stole everybody's culture. Like people don't realize that. I mean, they basically stole Greek shit. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's normal. I think it's exciting actually to do art here and be part of that because it's such an early state of development culturally. It's
Okay.
all just. I mean, think about that. Like some countries have been around for 1,000 years. It's
Yeah. What do you think about the state of the art or just state of art in Philadelphia? Making art in Philly and the Philly scene, and the
I think-
gallery scene. And
gallery.
do you feel connected to Philly as an artist now that you've been here for how many years?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a Philly boy.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no doubt because Philly has such a specific vibe to it. I lived in New York because I went to school of visual arts for 4 years.
Okay.
So or 3 years.
And you lived up in New York when you were up there.
Yeah. I did, which was a miserable experience, but in terms of education, it was just like tremendous.
Why was it a miserable experience, living wise? not
just
education.
really having a hard time connecting with people. You know, just it's like it was sort of I was so protected, and I had not a lot of social skills. So going there, I couldn't really hold a job. I just I was barely keeping my shit together.
Yeah. Where were you at in Manhattan?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like Chelsea and then Manhattan. But I had friends, but I really like the competition was amazing. And actually, it was rough. I really had to work super hard to be able to even try to keep up with some of the really good dudes. I mean, like Dash Shaw is there. He did the Bottomless Belly Button comic book.
Okay.
Karan Shadmi, this dude is doing like illustrations for Village Voice. I mean, really all of them.
How do you think competition fuels
Oh my
you a little
God,
bit?
yeah, are you
Do you
kidding
think
me?
it fuels you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do. It was brutal. I mean,
Because we like to pretend that artists aren't competitive on the outside, even though most will admit that they.
oh no,
are
like if I
incredibly.
see a really amazing piece of artwork that speaks to my soul, I hate that artist. For
Yeah,
about a couple
you gotta
of
hate them.
It's
Definitely.
just like, fuck, man. Like, seriously, you scumbag. But also, it's like learn, ask, learn,
Yeah.
ask. Some people are cool and they'll give you a little hand and push you up.
So there is this compelling
Of
drive to
course.
kind of push yourself.
Well, when you're younger. I
Yeah.
was younger, so I took it really personally. This
Okay.
kid could draw a figure in front of me. And I could.
Yeah,
was
some of
just
that
like,
talent.
Fuck, No, it was devastating.
Right.
It was fucking devastating.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was such a shock for me, but it made me really work hard.
How were you in the beginning? Did you know you wanted to be an artist as soon as you were really young? You were reading comics, or
No,
were you always drawing, or were you was it something much later in life?
it was a moment in community college. I was taking like math. And
You're like
stuff.
20 at this time or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my teacher was like, he's like, hey, you didn't do your homework, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I have a math test today, so I have to study. And he looked at me and he said, hey, listen, dude, like it's either you're gonna do drawing or the math stuff. And I was like, huh. Of course I chose drawing.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I had periods where I wasn't making any art for maybe like a year. In retrospect, I know I was just like depression, but I didn't know that at the time. And again, dude, I was like super obsessed with drawing. I took that shit so seriously. If I was a teacher and I came into class, I think I would be a little nervous.
Yeah?
Yeah, because, I was just like super like determined with the drawings.
Yeah.
And they were not classically what you wanted anyway.
Did you ever piss off a teacher? You ever get a teacher?
No, not at all, actually. Not really.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that a little bit too. It's just kind of technology in your work, but the sense of like, is music gonna play? The sense of like archaic technology.
I like that. Oh, archaic technology. That's interesting.
Yeah, archaic. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the hashtags too, if you want to talk about them. I know you have to
Hashtags.
drive as well,
Oh, that's cool.
which is a lot of fun. So we're headed to someplace. I don't know where you're taking me, but we're doing it.
Dude, like fucking driving and doing an interview is really hilarious. I saw like this really awkward video from Syria of Assad and his wife driving in what I assume was a Mercedes. Like,
We must only assume it's a Mercedes, right?
you know what? Because
It's
like
probably
I don't know.
not a Chevy. It's probably not
It
an
was
Impala.
something good. It was something good. No, maybe it was a BMW. But anyway, so they're driving, for this like on the highway for Damascus, and as you know, that city is basically like people are killing each other. It's like a total war zone.
Yeah.
Except for like this inner core of the city. And he was just like, no, look, it's totally beautiful. Like everything's fine. No, there's nobody's here with guns. No, we're
Wow.
totally safe.
Obviously, there's no visual on this interview, right? It's just
no,
audio.
you just see him driving.
Oh, did you just see him driving?
You probably don't see the 47, armored vehicles behind him and choppers and shit.
The crucified
Yeah.
bodies, I guess. I
This
don't know
is-
what's happening.
But this is the type of world we live in.
What do you mean? What do you mean by
Like
that?
violent, It just, I think it's just interesting how you can see all of that now on TV.
Well, there's a lot of that taught violence in your in your art as well, right? I mean, there's a lot of that kind of strained,
Violence, yeah.
but just also just a certain kind of pressure on the body, and there's a stripping away of the body as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sketching of anatomy, taking away the skin, taking away the muscle, or showing the muscle and the skeleton underneath, showing the bones underneath.
Well, I went to see the body show, which was this anatomical. I mean, I assume, like, some people might be, just look up body show, body world.
Body world, that's it, yeah.
Oh my God, I'm just
Because some of the hashtags you have are biomechanics,
biomechanics,
anatomy,
yeah.
of course, Egypt, Rome, the ancient cultures, the ancient imagery and symbolism that you explore. But you were inspired by Dr. Von Hagens, is that his name?
Yeah. No, listen, I could not, like, get over it. It was one of the most beautiful, like, human bodies. I was looking at them and I thought to myself, my God, like, we're machines. I mean, we're literally mechanical, like, like muscles have roles and all this. And I told myself, you know what, I'm done with skin. Like, you look at history of...
Just the soft machine, to explore.
Yeah, I mean, we look at, like, history of painting and it's all skin, and I was like, oh, fuck it. And so I got really interested in basically the inside of the human body. Yeah, and I became really, very interested in it, I guess.
Yeah. So, do you
Biomechanics.
use anything for your subjects? I mean, are you just looking at old photos? I mean, are you looking at old
Oh,
paintings?
no, like, I take reference pictures,
of cadaver. What's that?
I take... Oh, you mean like... Well, I actually, for the figures, I looked at a lot of scans
Okay.
of dissected human beings.
Okay.
And I found that to be fascinating to look at, because it's so abstracted in a way, and it's flat,
Yeah.
which I found visually to be very striking, and that totally got me into doing like the piece like The Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, if I got scanned, I would probably look like the piece.
If your body was scanned.
Which it was, and I think that's partly where I was also inspired by that experience. My studio was in Kensington.
Okay. And
K&A.
what's the name of your studio?
Paper Mill. And that's...
Oh, it's not Fourstroke?
Oh, no. First off, that's just like a made-up studio name from like the past.
Over by the studio?
No.
Kensington?
Yeah, everywhere. Not in the studio building, but everywhere. Yeah. So I see crazy shit. I mean, I see heroin addicts. I see mothers on heroin. Listen, people complain about like, like what's going on in Middle East or something in terms of children. That is such bullshit, dude. In Philly, I saw a mother on heroin standing right almost midway through intersection, so high on a heroin, and her kid was in the, stroller. I mean, can you believe that shit? And she was literally like just standing there completely high. You know what, shit like this, it fucking kills you. It kills you. Like, eventually you see enough of it, you just, it's just insane.
This is the difficulty with being in the urban culture you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, but this is rough.
Yeah.
It's not about seeing the sky in little chunks. No, it's like,
it's hard enough to see,
yeah,
every day.
every day.
Or even just once in a while, but...
Oh, I'm in my studio. There's a girl. She was a soldier in Iraq. Really amazing, dude. Really amazing person. Like, amazing stories. Just unbelievable
Where was this?
stuff. In the Paper Mill studio.
Okay.
And she told me, man, like, that place is pretty bad. Almost as bad as that area, as the shit she saw in Iraq. I mean, it's fucking crazy, dude.
She was comparing what? The area?
The area to, like, her experience in Iraq.
Okay.
That's fucking crazy. You know what? I don't even react when there's gunshots anymore.
I'll react for you.
It's just
If there are any.
like, I'm more concerned how far they are, rather than...
Oh, I see. Like how close they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you ducked or whatever, but...
Right.
It's... I don't know. I got some funny stories. You want to hear a funny story? Okay, this is how it is. This is the type of experience I have. I'm helping this girl move in, right? So we're outside of her car.
Where's this at? Philly here?
Yeah. And I'm like...
Who is she? Your friend?
Oh, no, she was some girl renting a studio. And there's gunshots somewhere out there. And she freezes. She has the total white person, suburbanite moment
Yeah.
of sheer horror.
Okay.
And I'm looking at her and I go like, oh no, listen, relax. That was a 6-shot revolver, and it was like at least 2 blocks away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She moved out, I think, a couple months later.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
too rough. Like, it's just, but that's Philly, man. Philadelphia is a brutal town.
It's a brutal town. Yeah.
Brutal
Well.
town. You gotta be tough, man, to fucking live in this city. But you know what? I think that's why it has such an amazing effect on the art.
Okay. Why?
Because it's, you know what? This is where the art thrives. Like when you look at New York City in the 80s, it was just like Philadelphia. I mean, you had ridiculously rich people, and then you had complete and utter social breakdown and poverty.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you know, those are places of angst. There's just this energy, and it's inexpensive. Yes, I think Philly's definitely a place to be right now. Okay, I think it's just like, it's cheap, so artists can move in. Artists don't ask for rough neighborhoods. I think they just, this is where they can afford to make their art.
Which brings me to a question I always ask everybody I interview. Mm-hmm. How are you making it? How are you, besides selling some paintings here and there,
yeah,
how are you actually...
Well, I used to work in a movie theater called Ritz 5, Art House Movie Theater. Amazing place to work at. The type of people that work there, extraordinary. Like Ted Knighton, who's an amazing artist.
Who?
Ted Knighton.
Ted Knighton?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a lot of talent.
So you worked at a movie theater?
Yeah, Art House Movie Theater.
Yeah, Art House Theater here
Yeah.
in Philly.
So I got to see a lot of amazing cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did you do that?
9 years.
Yeah? Where was that at? Just down here in...
Yeah, just downtown. And my wife, you know, she's an RN. So she had it's a steady paycheck versus, you know, doing, working as a waiter or something.
Okay.
So that helped. Yeah.
So a little support from the wife?
Yeah, big support from the
Big
wife.
support
Actually,
from the wife.
huge support from the wife. Let's just be honest. Like,
Yes, please.
The reality,
Be as honest as possible.
the reality is that it's like most of us have no money, and it's really
As
like,
artists.
As artists, and it's really, we really rely on the kindness of the other people. You know, that's just the reality of it. If we are to make art and survive, I mean, those two things just don't go together. Making money and making art, for the most part. And yeah, you know, like in Europe, the government gives you money to some extent.
Okay. What do you mean by that? Like a...
It's just
It's like welfare programs? Or?
something like that.
Yeah.
If you're an artist.
If you're an artist. Oh, okay. It's not welfare. It's just if you're actually creating art.
But I've been privileged enough and lucky enough that I can get away with it. So yeah, there you have it.
Yeah. So what is it with the interest in the ancient cultures influencing your work? Any reason?
You know what? That's like something I fell in love when I was really young.
Who's Remus?
Oh, Remus, that's interesting, man. You see, when I was doing the graphic work, I naturally just wanted to kind of do something a little looser. And so there's Romulus and Remus, two brothers that started Rome.
Yep.
Of course, Romulus ended up killing Remus.
Of course.
But to me, Remus represented the other.
Okay.
You know, the other person, the one that's not there, or just the alternative person to, you know, sort of the opposite. So that fascinated me. The sort of notion of double personality almost. Yeah.
But the double personality, which is that other half is invisible though as well. So it's not like two people, right? But one's invisible because they're dead. They were killed. By one personality, and then the other personality is just kind of, there's an attempt there to destroy it.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's definitely constant conflict in my head.
Yeah. Well, you said in your statement, do you want to talk about it?
Bipolar shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And it's just the way it is. I don't know, like, I feel like if socially, like, people realize that a lot of the stuff that we see on the news is really heavily influenced by mental problems and not guns. I know it sounds very unpopular, especially in the liberal circles, but it is just true. You know, there's a lot of people with mental issues, and I think bipolar disorder, if gone unchecked, in some cases can lead. I mean, it's definitely a catalyst that can eventually create a very bad situation.
How long have you struggled with it, or have you been diagnosed with it?
Oh, in retrospect, I know that I had it really forever, but
Right.
There was a moment where my wife was like, "Listen, dude, you're gonna go see a shrink."
You have any moments of like where you
I
felt
must
like,
have been.
like acting out, or? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess, yeah. You're not aware of it.
Right.
That's the thing. You don't really know that you're being weird.
So it's been since you knew her. I mean, she.
Oh yeah, she met me like being me.
Wow.
But she's a really strong woman. Yeah, after we got married, she was like, "Dude, it's time for you to go see a shrink." So
How many years ago was this?
8 years, 9.
8 years. Okay, so you've been
I've been
aware of it, and yeah.
I was in therapy for very long. When I went into the therapy session, I went in there as like really a fucking fruitcake. I mean, I was so not on this planet in terms of my views, in terms of like my ideas about the world. It was scary shit, and
How so? Like.
just violence, extremists, not necessarily religiously.
Okay.
But anti-government views, paranoia.
Yeah.
I got introduced into certain types of theory, like what do they call them? Like X-File type of stuff.
Oh, real conspiracy theory
Yeah.
stuff. Deep conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah, and it got to the absurd level of shape-shifting lizards. But
Oh yeah, the shape-shifting lizards out in Colorado, right? In Crestone and a couple other places. There's been stories in Crestone, but there's the one famous one in Skinwalker Ranch, right?
I don't
You know
know.
Skinwalker Ranch?
No, I didn't.
You don't really need to know it, but yeah. Skinwalker Ranch.
I know that
supposedly,
Queen of
like-
England is a shapeshifter.
I thought she was a lizard person.
Oh yeah, isn't that the same thing?
Oh, that's the same thing, I guess. Yeah, because they have to hide their face, right?
David Icke is the writer.
David Icke, yeah.
That guy. Yeah.
That's right.
But you know what? It's like
There's a building that's a portal inside New York City somewhere.
You know what? I wish
There is. On a floor, there's a portal somewhere in a building. He knows of it, and the lizards come in and out of there or something. You can see them.
You know what? That was such fuel for me. Like, not only for my
Reading
madness,
his work, or just
reading his stuff, and just like everything else, and seeing the whole world through this prism of symbolism and double meaning. And it was amazing, sort of to live in this world in retrospect. But, it was, the art was the positive effect of it. The negative effect was really scary, scary behavior, scary stuff. So that's the thing, like, I think the notion is that art should be for free
yeah.
for
Go
some
ahead.
reason, and it's just bullshit.
Say more about that.
Well, like, I just, I don't know, again, it's like...
Like you're an artist, you have your wife supporting you, you're doing your own odd jobs on the side, plus you're trying to sell your own art.
Yeah, but
I don't think it should be for free.
Yeah, but people act like art, it's just...
Why do you think that is?
Because
why
they
do
don't
you
know how
think
we make it. We don't know what it takes to make it.
Do you think it's the mystery that...
Oh, they're not. I think most people are not. They don't get it. They don't even think in those terms.
I always thought there was a subtle, subconscious anger of some kind towards artists, towards the ones who decide to, not just artists, but also just anybody who
Of
tries to go in the
course.
creative field.
No, listen, like,
you
if
know
you-
what? You decided to do it, and you are doing it, and you're a little successful at it. You can starve.
Yeah.
You can be poor.
Well, you know what? Let me say that. It's interesting because artists, I think people don't know how we make it, and so as socially we're a block, you see, right? We're a group of people, and artists are fucking weird. What can I say? We always stick out of the box a little bit.
And when you say artists, who are you including? Who do you think of as artists?
Creative
Writers,
people.
or no? Are writers just kind of their own thing?
Anybody who's just basically very creative.
Okay.
Where it's beyond hobby to some extent.
Oh, I see.
Where
Okay,
it's-
beyond hobby.
It's clearly like he's really committed to it. Because it's really about that, Like, how committed are you? What can you endure to do your work? How much shit you can put up with to do
Yeah.
it. Dude, I know people that are fucking... they have to deal with so much shit. And they still just hold on to their guns.
Yeah.
That is fucking impressive to me.
And what kind of shit? What do you mean?
Oh, like the guys I work at Ritz 5 that I work there with. You know, they just like Ted Knighton. I mean, that dude is an amazing like filmmaker. Like,
okay, but what does he have to
artist.
put up with though? What are these obstacles that you're referring to?
Dude, just
what
like
are some examples? If you can talk about it, if you can't, because
well, he works like I did in you know, service area. So you have to put up with people. Like,
oh yeah, so it's really the jobs that you have to work to get to making your art. You mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and people like, and dude, it's hard. I mean, for anybody out there that does it, I think it takes a lot of energy to maintain a social demeanor when you're a creative person.
Okay. So, did you study? I know we talked about this for a little bit. You know, did you study anatomy at all, or you just got fascinated with it?
I had to know it a little bit because of the illustration program in New York. You know, if you draw a human figure, I mean, you're gonna have to kind of research it a little bit. But I was, you know, drawing anatomy was very scary to me. It seemed very complex. So I started paying a lot of attention to it.
Would you consider yourself a political person?
Yeah.
You're a political person.
Right.
Okay.
I am. I know I shouldn't be, maybe, or it's weird, but yeah, I am obsessed with politics. The show was, you know, it was about that specific period in my life, and so yeah, it was a political. You know what? The inks really just they represented to me what a part of me wanted my world to look like.
Okay.
You know,
because there isn't a lot of color, but when you do color, you go at it hard. I mean, you're like, I'm going to use red. I'm using red.
Yeah,
red is it. You know, you don't go with a subtle approach to it. You know, you're like, hey, I want to do ink. There's going to be black here.
Yeah,
it's going to be dark. You know,
yeah, that's the beauty of it. But that's Goya.
But even in your beauty, it's Goya.
Black paintings.
Yeah. Okay, that's your okay.
That and Michael Meaning. No, there's a lot of artists that, yeah. But Goya's black paintings. You know what? It's so weird because for me, I was like, I loved his work, but also I loved just the term black paintings. You know?
Yeah.
Black is beautiful. It's weird because I assumed it would be a utopia, but it really everybody sees it as a dystopia, which kind of makes sense.
Do you feel that there's a dystopian theme running throughout all of your work? I mean, do you try and have a uniform? Things are kind of a little broken.
Yeah.
Always. The body's always a little broken.
Always. Everything's always broken.
Everything's always broken.
Everything's always broken, man.
And you're passing this wisdom on to your 3-year-old, right? Of course.
Yeah.
Not yet. Maybe a little bit older, right?
No, she. Dude, she looks at my work. And she. Yeah.
She comes in. She sees because I mean, there's a lot of NC-17 in your work as well.
She does. You know what? One time she had a bad.
Actually, let's just say X-rated. It's not even NC-17. It's X-rated.
I got penises with horns. Watch out.
Well, what's even better is that you had labia like shaping.
Oh yeah.
The skull of the guy who, not even the skull, the whole face and the hair of the guy who's hanging underneath the opening. Yeah.
That's true. Yes.
To the lady bits.
Yeah, I know. I long for that.
If it's a lady, I mean, it has.
It's a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Women, man. Femme fatale. Yeah.
It goes way beyond AM Flux, though.
Yeah. Gotta push the envelope.
In tight leather. In tight bondage leather, you know?
This is a little bit more twisted.
Yeah.
So that work was really. It's always gonna be dark. It's always gonna be dark.
Now, is this a finished concept, Messiah Complex, and then you'll move on to another kind of theme, or you'll move on to, or do you like to just go, you know what, I'm just gonna work on one painting right now?
I've been doing that kind of, but that work is. You know what? I made Messiah Complex, that series. That work was made at a specific time in my life. Before I knew I was bipolar, so.
Oh.
There was
okay, so this work itself in the show at Kitchen Table Gallery was made 8 years ago?
2010 was the last piece. So that would be 5.
Okay, 5. Okay.
Almost 6 years.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like really. I didn't know I was bipolar. I was already starting to be in therapy, So that was I just found it to be so genuine
Yeah.
when I look back. That stuff I had no idea that I was, having issues. So I think I was thinking about the show when I was when I was conceiving it, and then I realized that it's important to just tell the truth.
What is that though today? I mean, in this age,
Oh,
this
oh, that's a good question.
this lovely interweb age. I'm not asking you to take on that big idea. That's
But just how is it to be?
truthful in your art.
Well, basically, people would ask me about this work, and I would never really know what to say to them. It took me 2 months to write it. It was very hard, and I just wanted people to understand that this work was basically a product of a certain state of mind. Mm-hmm. And it was heavily influenced by symbolism, and it just was, it was innocent in that.
Okay.
I did not, at the time when I made that work, I did not perceive the world as gray. I perceived it as black and white.
Okay.
Which is radicalism. It's just,
And does that also tie you back into your political views?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you think you're saying your art is deeply tied to your political views?
It is, but I
And the
don't know if
wokeness.
people pick up on that actually.
I don't know if I would pick it up. I mean, I might say that there's definitely emotional themes, and
Yeah.
there's definitely really intense, world building going on in an emotional way. But I don't know if I would see politics there.
Yeah, they are, but those are those are like broad politics, because in symbolism, I'm using very sort of archetypes, very specific.
Okay.
So if you make this artwork in a certain context of what you're experiencing and what you're seeing and what you're thinking about, it becomes universally political. Like the piece Six Virtues. It's
The six what?
There's this piece in
Six
the
Virtues?
Six Virtues. But if you look at the dudes, they kind of look like Popish.
What is that? What is the six virtues
Oh.
in your piece?
Well, I don't know. It was like fascism.
Okay.
Pursuit of utopia through the symbolism of the sun, which means
In your work, this
Yeah.
is it. Okay.
Yeah.
This is hanging in the gallery, right? Okay.
So basically, it's just was the virtues were really all the horrible things, but
Can you rattle off the virtues now from your own work?
well, that was the couple. It's weird, yeah. Yeah, there were a bunch of them. I can't fucking recall them now.
Oh, that's all right. What do
But
you?
that's also interesting actually, because it's been a while since I made them, and I sort of have grown distant enough from that work that I can see it more objectively.
Yeah. Okay.
And you see, that's the thing with being in a sort of a strange state of mind, that to some extent those things don't make any sense.
How so? Like having six virtues doesn't make any sense? Or
No, it's just that
in the
what they
context of your work.
Yeah, what they symbolize. I mean, they're negative virtues, but the idea that somehow I believe that those were the virtues that were necessary, let's say, to accomplish certain things, was pretty out there. And it took me years of therapy, man, just to get myself.
Well, it's interesting that you get diagnosed a few years before you do this work, right? 2010?
2 years after.
Oh, 2 years after.
Yeah, a couple of years after I was already.
Okay, so you're doing this work in 2010. You're creating this piece. Did you call it Messiah Complex then?
No.
No? Okay. So then you move on from that. Years go by.
Yeah.
You must be painting other things. You must
Oh
be
yeah.
moving on. But then now in 2015, you decide to show this work.
Yeah. Because of the violence, young people being radicalized, and then a lot. I listen to the media. They can't make sense of it a lot of times. And I can totally make sense of it. Like if you set me down with one of those dudes, I don't know if I could help them, but I would be like, dude, I know exactly what you run on. I know what you're thinking. I totally I understand it.
Yeah. Okay. So you're I mean, it seems like there's still a lot of extremism in what you're associating with, like, with being political, right?
Yeah.
Extreme feelings, I mean, like,
Yes,
not just
yes, there
extremism
you
in a
go.
sense of, like,
Yeah.
left and right, you know, any of that nonsense, but
No, it's
just
just-
extremism, like intensity
Yes.
in
just being-
feelings and belief.
Yeah.
So would you say you don't fit into the political landscape now as an artist? I mean, what you're saying, like whatever the.
Oh, you mean in the context?
Yeah, the halls, you know, the media concept, mainstream media concept of what political is, which is basically just two parties usually.
Yeah, you know what? I have friends that do political art, that really engage
Okay.
in politics through their artwork, and it's like a different beast, you know? That's a different language. I don't know. Like, I don't think art can change anything anymore.
Okay. Yeah, say more about that, especially in today's landscape of just, you know, Tumblrs and
Art
Twitters and
I
visual
mean-
art being anywhere and everywhere, photography being anywhere and everywhere. Not saying it's of the same caliber. I don't believe it's of the same caliber, but
photography still can do it. I mean, look what happened
can.
with the little boy from Syria in Europe.
okay.
Whoa,
Good point.
right?
Okay, so photography can still do it, you're saying.
Photography can still do it, but art, you know, I mean, especially let's say like my type of art, or I don't know, it's just no, it's really just personal dialogue with your audience, you know. That's it. I cannot imagine, you know, this work turning anybody else from being a radical. I have a huge connection to pop culture, comic books, movies.
Okay.
You know, I love that shit, and I'm hugely inspired by it. But I think that exists ironically nowadays in its own sort of path.
I'm going to ask you this. If you could take any art to the guillotine and chop off its head, what would it be?
Well, that's a very politically incorrect question, man. You know, this would have been easier for me to answer when I was younger,
Okay.
because you're way more. You have those views and opinions. When you get older, it becomes so much more complicated.
What would you do? Come on.
Art. You know, I don't know.
You could pick a particular kind of art. You could pick an artist,
Artist.
take him to the guillotine. But that might be too easy. That might be too easy of an out.
You know what? I don't know. I do dislike personally. Maybe it's a cliche. I do dislike Damien Hirsch.
Who?
Damien Hirsch.
Who's Damien Hirsch?
Oh, he's this super famous.
Just for all of our listeners who don't know.
Oh yeah.
Like my mom and my grandma.
He's like this super big, super rich, fine artist from England. Mm-hmm. He made the skull made out of diamonds.
Yeah. Oh, I know who he is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking to your grandma, and she'll be like, "What?
She loves him. She loves Damien Hirsch.
Capitalism, man. It's always been an art, but he literally thrived on making money.
Okay. So you would take him and just send
Yeah,
him to the
man, because
guillotine.
it
Damien
became
Hirsch.
about money. But I think it's like he really devastated the art world. I mean, he just devastated it because people really started buying art purely as an investment
Okay.
and not actually as an experience.
As an investment. Yeah.
It's
like
about-
real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, oh my God, yeah. And it
Sure.
started with like there's this famous video with Rauschenberg in New York where he confronted one of his collectors who ended up selling his artwork for like crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
And Rauschenberg didn't get he didn't get a dime of it, but
If you could switch two artists, changing the space-time continuum forever, okay? Whatever that means. Changing history forever, right? Like if you could switch Iggy Pop and the woman who painted the vagina flowers, Georgia O'Keeffe.
okay.
They are still who they are,
Uh-huh.
but now they're in each other's respective mediums.
Oh my God.
Iggy Pop is painting,
Vaginas.
kind of, yeah. some flowery thing, and I'm working in that. He's the Georgia O'Keeffe now. And Georgia O'Keeffe is the head of a Stooges-like band. What two artists would you switch?
Let me see. I would switch. I'm thinking David Bowie.
David Bowie, okay. With who though? This is a tough one. You got to think about this.
Yeah, because you know what, David Bowie's actually a bad choice because he's so
Is it too easy?
No, he's let's see.
I'll take it. I'm gonna take your choices. I'm only gonna be disappointed if you do a David Bowie and Freddie Mercury or something like that.
No.
You can't do something like that.
Watermelon salad.
I don't know, man.
Not a huge salad.
You know?
I don't know if I can answer that question. It's weird.
I would do Iggy Pop and Georgia O'Keeffe. That's why I picked those two.
There's
I would
so
choose
many
that.
options. Like,
There is.
I don't, Yeah, I mean, should it be a writer switched with David Bowie?
Sure.
I
would switch John Updike with David Bowie. I would switch John Updike with David Bowie. That's what I would do. Yeah.
That'll be pretty weird, man.
Yeah. I would do something like, definitely John Updike switches with David Bowie. Somehow he brings his white New England Protestantism to that whole 80s music scene in Bowie kind of style.
But Bowie
Bowie writes all those books. What would he write? Rabbit Run? Would he write like Rabbit Rest or whatever those rabbit books are?
But you know what? This is the thing with Bowie. Actually, I was hugely fascinated by him. I still am. I read like a couple of his books on him.
That's 2 more books than I will ever read by him. Or by his ghostwriter.
Well, it was like it was biography. I mean, I don't think he even approved of those books, to be honest with you. But you know, he had the period in Germany when he was the thin white duke, and he was obsessed with like occult and fascism.
And let's never discount his progression, pushing asexuality, bisexuality, androgyny forward.
Bowie.
I mean, man, he was great in that sense. So was Grace Jones, but she never gets credit for anything. Conan the Barbarian, those movies.
Dude, I love Conan the Barbarian.
Of course.
Oh my god, dude,
You
I've actually been reading a Conan the Barbarian book.
Well, my friend was telling me about them recently.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, those comics back in the day, they were actually kind of sophisticated because of, the world building aspects, but also of the character itself is actually way less barbarian-like than is portrayed in the movies. He's a little more sophisticated. He's closer to Bond than we ever could realize for Conan the Barbarian. He's not even close to being Bond, but he's closer than Arnold portrays him in those 2 movies.
True. Well, it's interesting because Robert Howard wrote, Conan. He wrote it in 1930s during the recession. So it's interesting that that character, the notion of barbarism. I wonder how going through an economic collapse of a country, what sort of an effect that has on a writer.
To write Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
It has that kind of effect.
Yeah.
You end up writing Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. I mean, he was always writing stuff like that, but I think that, like,
those guys always are, though, right? Don't you love that when they come out and they have a hit, and it's like, oh, I've always been writing that since I was 8. I've always been, like George R. R. Martin's like, well, I've always been working on Game of Thrones.
I know.
Song of Fire and Ice. It's always been there. I started that when I was 5. But I can't get you to get 2 artists, huh? That you would switch out to change the course of history?
To change
like John Updike and David Bowie? Or Iggy Pop and Georgia O'Keeffe? I'm smitten with that one. Sorry.
Well, maybe. Wait, Sex Pistols.
Oh, you want to take a group? That'd be great.
Well, it would be interesting.
You take Sex Pistols and you...
I would switch George W. Bush administration with Sex Pistols.
The George W. Bush administration, you switch it out with the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
So the Sex Pistols have the power. They're in those positions.
Right after 9/11,
so 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
And they're there.
Yep.
Now you switch the course of it. Wow.
Think about that, dude.
So Johnny, all the Johnnies are there.
Yeah. Who knows?
All the Johnnies the Sex Pistols had. Everyone has to be alive. So Nancy's alive too, right? Nancy's alive.
Yeah.
Even though she was, she was.
No, she would be.
In this world, she's alive.
Yeah.
And she's in the administration.
And they would probably end up invading Acapulco.
Yeah.
Well,
they would start with the Poconos.
Yeah.
Catskills, the Poconos, and then so they would end up invading those places.
It would have been different. I think so.
It would have been different a little bit. And then you have the George W. Bush administration
with the band
in the Sex Pistols. So that's progressive though, right? Because you have Condoleezza Rice, who would be in a punk band,
and you have Cheney.
You have one of the first African American women in a punk band, Condoleezza Rice.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I mean, that would be that's a good choice. I'm going to approve that choice.
And it would have been.
I like the switch.
And George Bush being from Texas, I think this would be such a premonition of like the early 2000s. You had the Killers, all those guys come out of the Texas scene. I don't know. Maybe it would have been like a premonition of that.
Okay.
I love the Killers, but I'm just saying.
Sure, of course. Who doesn't?
So there you go.
What self-respecting Philly artist doesn't? I don't know.
Well, I love Joy Division. So.
Yeah, Joy Division. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more about the Philly scene. What do you like about the Philly scene? What are you into? I mean, do you like the gallery scene? Do you just like the camaraderie of the other artists? Do you feel like there's a community here that's and I hate the word community. It's overused.
Yeah,
it's
because
like,
we're not really a community.
It's so boring
right now.
Okay, all right. Why not?
Well, the Philly art scene to me is very fragmented.
How so?
I mean, they're always fragmented. It's just there's like different little.
Because we can say that about any scene, really.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
I mean, the outsiders conceptualize it. They say, "Oh, look, there's a scene there. Boom, let me put my projections onto it.
Sure.
Oh, there's this scene, the punk scene." But then when you're inside of it, it's like, well, yeah, there was kind of a scene, but it's what makes the scene feel real.
In Philly, to me, there's like you have the fine art crowd making art that's very intellectual.
Okay.
Still there's like minimalism aspects to it.
And they don't mingle. They don't mingle too well. Or?
I don't know, man. I just maybe not with me, but I just they just they have their own clique. You have the little Berlin collective.
Okay.
So there's just like different groups that are doing their thing, but each group is really good at what they're doing. And it doesn't mean that we necessarily have a dialogue with each other, but we do.
Yeah. Do you think a dialogue between artists is important at all?
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
You do? Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because you learn stuff from each other. And part of being an artist, to some extent, it's always about fuel for creativity. And so people introduce you to stuff, to ideas that you might not think of as if you're, I don't know. You know what? I don't know if that's even true, to be honest with you, because I kind of... I don't know, dude. I kind of just come up with my own shit.
Nice.
But I have friends that I talk to that know my work, and... You know what? I don't know, because I was a loner, I always... You see, that's weird. Truth comes out, huh? But I kind of, like... I always had my own ways of getting my own creative fuel, like heavy metal, for instance. Visually, certain magazines, movies, cinema, music... history books.
Would you say you're an artist that is definitely influenced by other mediums, not exactly influenced by the one you work in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love meeting artists like that, though. But it's very rare to find like a writer, for example, that says, because there's so much like BS advice for writers about writing every day, or I'm not saying that advice doesn't work, but some of it is just like the BS. Kind of listicle advice you hear every day. It's like, oh, how do you be a writer? Well, put one word in front of the other. How do you be a writer? Write every day. Read, and write. And it's just like to come across a writer who's actually successful, and he says, oh, I don't really read anything anymore. I get most of my inspiration from watching bad movies. And he's not being cute. He's being serious.
Oh my
he's
God,
being
dude,
very sincere in his advice. And he says, oh, no, I get inspired by watching good cinema or just really bad movies, whatever.
Dude, it's the truth.
And I love it because it's like you're stimulated in so many different ways, and when you have an artistic approach, like one that's I think is incredibly open, you're just taking in whatever you can to become inspired and then to create.
Yeah, whatever.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally true. I don't know. It's like I don't know. I have to really make myself go out there, to look at art. I just don't have that much interest in other people's artwork. Unless I really like it.
Okay, what do you mean by that exactly? Like you don't go to gallery openings, you don't go to.
Not really. I don't go to New York to check out shows. A lot of my friends do, which is great.
There's a popular comedian who said that recently. She was like, she's very big right now, but she's just breaking out now. But she was like, yeah, I would never go to a stand-up comedy. I'm not going to say her name, but you're not.
I got you. Though,
I wouldn't go out to see comedy. I wouldn't go out, but she's like, I love stand-up. Well, I love the art form and I love performing it, but I would never go to, like on a Tuesday night, if I weren't a comedian, I probably wouldn't go to a stand-up show.
You know what, there's some artists, yeah, of course, and you will, you do show up, like I will step out to see certain types of work, because sometimes it's just, you have to, but, there's people that constantly go out and see shows. I don't do that. I really, honestly, I can't fucking do it.
I agree with you, where it's like, oh, it's 90% of shit out there? Yeah, and that 90% is mixed up to, like, a lot of, like, different levels of...
Well, yeah, you have people with potential, always. I mean, it just, you know what, I think if you do art for a long time, when you're younger, you perceive it as, like, it just, you need to be so stellar. It just, art is amazing. You go to museums, and as you get older and you make more art, you start seeing mistakes or certain obvious technical solutions.
Right.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
So it's like when I say art sucks, it depresses me. Like, I just get depressed. I don't know why, but it just does. And you know what? So I guess I'm not that connected to the overall art scene, even though obviously my friends are, and so
in Philly.
Yeah, so I.
But you do have a sense of it, though. You obviously you have some feelings about it.
Oh yeah, because I know those people. They're art studio buildings. Studio visits. Yeah, but I don't know them maybe on like a super personal level, but I know of their work.
Will you take Messiah Complex somewhere else?
I should.
Will you? Out to another gallery, maybe in Philly or somewhere else, maybe?
I don't know. Definitely somewhere else. Maybe in Philly. I don't know. But definitely out of the city, just in terms of, getting it out there, if I can, sure. You know what, it's not about the amount of people that see your work, actually.
Okay.
I think it's who sees your work. That's how I think about it, And there's certain people that I want to get in there so they can look at their work and get feedback from them. That's important to me. Very much so, actually. So.
That's great. Yeah. And that's our episode. Thanks to Marek Danielewski for sitting down with me, Louise O'Rourke for editing, Mike Kern for research and writing, Scott Barnhart, Alex Kachenko, and Eric Williams for helping to keep the gallery going. And for all future artists, because you're going to be on this podcast.